great to be back in Townsville. I've been here so many times over the years. It's an extraordinary city, and it's the lifeblood of this wider region, and one of Australia's great regional cities. And it's great to be here with Cathy O'Toole, who's our fantastic local candidate. I've met her up here before, and she's doing a great job taking our message up to the good people of Townsville about how we're building Townsville's future. Some of you were with me yesterday when we were in Sydney, out in Macquarie University, and we were out at the National Hearing Hub. And you may remember at the end of all that, we ran into that little boy whose name was Paddy, I think. Paddy is a really important symbol for me about the absolute importance of planning for the future and building for the future. Just think about it for a minute. This is a little bug, Cathy, who's not all that old, but was born with profound hearing loss. Because we, together with the Corporation of States and Territories, were able to put in mandatory national hearing testing for newborns, they picked this up really quickly. And I know this is true because when our granddaughter was born only a year or so ago, the same happened to her. Little headphones on the bub within about a few days of being born. So they work out pretty quickly whether there's a hearing problem. But here is the really important point. The diagnosis is there, then they can build on it. And build on it by making sure that at the earliest possible point they install the necessary hearing devices so that the little bub grows up being able to hear properly and be able to speak properly. And that is just a terrific example of looking into the future, working out what you need to do, have the testing out there, helping fund, as we do as an Australian government, those hearing devices for littlies, and so that when they grow up, they come to centres like this and they're not falling behind. And I think it's a great story about how you plan for the future and build for the future. I believe there are three tasks for national leadership. And the first is this: you've got to try and look beyond the horizon and see what's coming next, and therefore what are the challenges and what are the opportunities we've got to face and capitalise on. And number two is, if you've done that, how do you plan for the future? In other words, how do you best maximise your chances against the things coming down the tracks towards you? And then the third thing you do, the third part of national leadership, is building for the future. If you don't build for the future, then frankly it's all just stuff and nonsense. It's just castles in the air. Building for the future is what makes a difference. And that's where little Paddy's story hit me between the eyeballs yesterday. And I was genuinely moved by the story from his mum and dad. Building for the future for us is about building the new industries of the future, so that they create the new jobs of the future, so we don't have all our eggs in one basket. Building for the future is about building the best possible schools, like we're doing here in Townsville, through the Better Schools Plan in the future as well. Building our hospital and health system, including, critically, the new disability care scheme for Australia. Building on top of that, the infrastructure of the 21st century. Now here in Townsville, we already have 15,000, I believe, new homes and premises connected. And this is a hallmark location for the national broadband network being rolled out to turbocharge the competitiveness of our small businesses into the future, and also building a clean energy future for all Australians, and all the way through looking after families to make sure that they are managing cost of living pressures. What we're here today to talk about, what I've been talking about all week, is how we invest and build the new industries of the future, as well as the jobs and the skills necessary to make sure that everyone who needs and wants a job in the future has got one. So, I've been outlining elements of a $1 billion investment plan about how we turbocharge the new industries and the skills that they will need for the future. A couple of days ago in Queanbeyan in New South Wales, you saw me talk about how we unleash our new Steps to Skills plan, and that is, for those who are in that young bracket in particular, giving them the bridging skills to get into full-time TAFE and training so they get their Certificate 3 training. Yesterday in Sydney, I outlined our plan for manufacturing and manufacturing skills, so that we've got the skills for our manufactured workforce to go into the high-tech manufacturing area. And today I'm announcing here in Townsville our $30 million Better Skills for the Services Industries plan as well. And the reason why this is so important is that there are so many jobs being created in the services sector. Here we are at this terrific early childhood centre, and I see a number of the teachers around here this morning. And they're doing such a terrific job. These are early childhood educators, not just workers, they're educators. They're dealing with the pre-literacy and pre-numeracy skills of the next generation of Australians, and getting in behind them to make sure that they have the right skills for the future. And I congratulate their union on their Big Steps program, which they all got behind to make sure we were coming in behind and supporting the new career structure for early childhood educators. But beyond the early childhood sector, let me emphasise another sector, and that is the sector which will look after Australians with a disability in the future. You know that we have now established Australia's first national disability insurance scheme. Now this sector at present employs a whole bunch of people, but let me tell you, further into the future it's going to employ probably 3 times as many. We're going to be going into the hundreds of thousands of workers in this area, by which I mean those who are working as nurses, those who are looking at disability care coordinators, those who are out there in the field working with people in their home situations, in their work situations, to make sure that we've got the best possible disability care on the ground. So the key question is, how do we build the skills necessary for this expanding range of needs for the future? In Townsville alone, we project, based on analysis that we've done within the government, reports that we've received, by the time we get to 2019, we're going to have an extra 1,000 workers in this sector here in Townsville, a great regional centre. So the new jobs in the future are going to come from what we do in our manufacturing industries, what we do in our agribusiness, what we do in critical services sectors like these community service sectors that we're just talking about here today. And you've got to put your best foot forward to make sure it's going to work. So we're on about how you invest in the future and how you build in the future so that we are having the jobs that all Australians want for the future. There's been a few interesting things happening in broader politics in the last 24 hours. I've noticed that a Liberal National Party frontbencher, Mr Randall, has been out there saying that if they're elected to government, they would consider reversing the pre-election promises that they are making. I've got to congratulate Mr Randall on belling the cat on what seems to be the plan within the Liberal National Party as they approach this election. I don't think it says a lot, however, about the integrity of the Liberal National Party funding commitments that are being made during this election process. So I think that speaks for itself. But the one that's really taken me, I've got to say, is further statements by Mr Truss, when he's saying it's too soon to say whether they'll deliver infrastructure under our nation building program. He reserves the right to reprioritise various of those projects. It's a very simple question. If that's what the Deputy Prime Minister, as he would be, Mr Truss, is saying, then just tell people what you're not going to proceed with, so that the people in Townsville know whether they're going to proceed with the road projects that we've backed for the future. The people in Mackay are going to have that confidence for the future. So just put it out there so that people know what's happening. And as you know, it's it's D-Day for Mr Abbott when it comes to announcing his own budget bottom line. Mr Abbott has been preparing for this election for 3 years. He's known precisely that we would get to this point where the pre-election fiscal outlook document is made public. It's being made public today. And I think it is fundamental for the Australian people to know where Mr Abbott's $70 billion worth of cuts to health, education and jobs are going to fall. Here in Townsville we've known where Mr Newman's cuts have fallen, because at the Townsville General Hospital we've seen, I think, 240 health workers lose their jobs. That's under the Liberal National Party government here. As I've said before, with Mr Newman, you get the entree. It seems with Mr Abbott, you're going to get the main course. And we've seen Mr Abbott yesterday embrace wholeheartedly the Jeff Kennett golden age of slash and burn and cuts to the bone to jobs and health and education across the state of Victoria. Mr Abbott doesn't have the guts to come clean on his $70 billion worth of cuts to jobs, health and education, because he knows that if the Australian people knew his plans, they'd be very worried about voting for him. That's the core point here. It's not that they can't add up. It's not that they haven't had the resources of the Parliamentary Budget Office to draw upon. It's not that they haven't had enough time. They've been at this for 3 years. It's very simple. They don't want to come clean with the Australian people because they know what the reaction of the Australian people would be.